Podcast. I'm your host for this particular episode, Tom, and joining me today is Glasgow's #1 Art of Rally player, it's John Munro.
Oh, I thought you were talking to Justin there. Thank you. Good to be on.
Welcome aboard. And also joining us today is Austin's preeminent beard oil expert, it's Justin Sutton.
Thanks. I'm actually from Houston, though.
Oh. Oh, yeah, right, yeah, of course. I always write down...
You're thinking of me in terms of the F1 track. You're basing my location based on Circuit of the Americas, which is fine with me, honestly. Yeah. I am wearing a Circuit of the Americas t-shirt, so
it says literally Austin on your t-shirt.
It does. I am wearing an Austin t-shirt. So.
Houston, Texas's, if that's the thing. Beard oil expert. There we go. Yes. All right. Well, after that incredible intro, things can only get better. And today we're going to talk about something a little different to what we usually do. We normally got a specific topic and we debate it out or agree with each other all the time, as it happens often. We're going to talk about the news that's happened in April within the racing game and sim world and peripherals as well, because for whatever reason, the world has gone mad this month. There's so many news articles and opinion pieces on the Traxion.GG website and on the TraxionGG YouTube channel and social media. So we thought we'll take the time to discuss our opinions of these news articles and opinion pieces and announcements for the month. So think of this as a speculation special, because a lot of these, apart from one, we've not played or tried, or some we've not even seen gameplay for. So it's just our sort of opinions and expectations. So bearing in mind, for those watching on YouTube, we are going to be checking the Traxion website sometimes to look and sort of react to the news as we see it. And we're going to start with the biggest one probably this month, and that is the Formula 1 2021 reveal. The game is out in July, and there's already been a special podcast that myself and Justin were on, so you can listen to that for in-depth reactions. But John wasn't part of it. So John, just quickly, give me your feelings for this game. Are you excited?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I was away at the optician, sadly, so I wasn't part of the last one. But I actually really enjoyed listening to you guys talking about it, and I think there's a lot to be excited for with this game. I think the main thing for me is that they seem to have continued the trajectory that they've been going on, where they've been adding something new every year and making a genuine step forward without completely changing the game. And that's on the face of it anyway, that's definitely what seems to be happening. You know, the story mode looks great. It looks a little bit more in depth maybe than the previous one. It just gives me that feeling that there's going to be a bit more to it. Again, speculation. And you know, obviously that's not necessarily a brand new feature, but what they have done is added the new 2-player career mode, which I think is also a bit of a game changer considering the way that online racing is going at the moment. So no, on the face of it, it's really good.
Are you more excited for that career mode? The 2-player online career mode than the Breaking Point story, perhaps?
I'm not sure. So I think the best way I could describe it is I'm excited for the Breaking Point story in the short term. I think that's going to be great fun, and that's probably the first thing I'd want to play. But in terms of longevity, depending on how long the story mode, whether it links into career mode like it did before, or whether that's a separate thing again, you know, for longevity, I think the 2-player co-op thing could be a lot of fun. You know, I have a few teammates that are getting into the F1 games as well, and it's just, you know, community racing is always good fun, right? Racing with a teammate, having a bit of a laugh while you do it, and you know, this looks like a really good addition to the game, so I'm excited to try it out.
Yeah, Justin.
What icons are you hoping for, John? Just out of curiosity, because I asked on social media, I asked what icons people are hoping for, because there's going to be 7 icons in the My Teams thing. Who are you hoping to see?
Well, I kind of hope I kind of hope they go a little bit away from the standard, because, you know, you've got your set. You could pick the 7 most successful. You know, you could pick your Schumacher and your Senna and Prost, but I'd kind of like to see some more kind of unsung heroes in there. You know, the likes of Jean Alesi or someone. I saw some really good suggestions. You know, maybe a David Coulthard. Maybe that's just me. You know, some of the older ones as well from the 60s and 70s. It's hard to think of specific. I think maybe highlighting some drivers that maybe didn't achieve what they deserved to, or quite could have. I think that would be quite cool. But I would understand why, especially if this is the kind of first time they're looking at doing this specific thing, they'd want to put in some of the big names, and then maybe in the future add in some of the smaller ones.
For sure.
Yeah, that's true. And since we've talked and the dust has settled a little bit, there's been a couple more details that haven't been announced but have been found. So I don't know if you want to enlighten us about those a bit, Justin.
Yeah, so the Microsoft Store listed that 4K 60 FPS, and I guess 1080p 120 FPS modes will be available. So if you have a TV that supports that for your Xbox, because you would need a 120 hertz TV to support that. And the Steam page confirmed that the F2 2021 season will arrive post-launch, which we did speculate on. So people that would have listened to our podcast, that will come as no surprise.
Yeah, we're on it because that's what's happened last 2 years. But it was just weird from the initial statements. It didn't say either way. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's no F3 this year again. But that's a moot point. But yes, so that to me, I would interpret that the same frame rate and resolution is available on the PS5 version as well. It's for the next gen versions. Yeah. But Microsoft has this section of their site where it lists at bullet points the specs, which is rather useful and something to bear in mind for future announcements. So yeah, I think that briefly covers F1 2021. It is the biggest news this month, but which
is why it got its own podcast.
It got its own podcast. It was so big. And what we really need to see next is some gameplay, some screenshots, and details on the online and esports, which is a bit lacking at the minute, but there's plenty of time to see that. So we'll go on to one now that's a bit different. Now, if you're a big F1 fan, maybe you haven't played this game, or maybe you're into Assetto Corsa Competizione or Race Room, but I still think you could find some interest and enjoyment out of it. And that is WRC 10, the official game of the World Rally Championship, which I know is a popular sport worldwide, but certainly in the UK these days and the USA is relatively niche. But there has been a reveal. So first of all, have you both seen the trailers?
Yes.
And anyone got any burning opinions about WRC 10?
I will say, just on that topic, by the way, that I was listening to the interview with Andrew Coley that is on our YouTube, which is also a great interview, and how he was talking about how rally in the US, essentially, there is no entry level stuff, and so it was very interesting. I seem to be getting a lot of rally stuff this week between Andrew Coley and WRC 10 and stuff like that. I've only really played one modern rally game, and that was Dirt Rally, the first one. But I'm for some reason still pretty excited about this. I feel like because I haven't played any of the WRC games. I was kind of cautioned about the older ones like 8 and before and stuff like that. But I've heard nothing but great things about WRC 9 from people within Traxion and stuff like that. So I'm actually pretty interested, and I love nostalgia stuff, old cars, that kind of stuff. I'm super into it. I especially love the 90s, Subaru, the two-door STI, that kind of era. I'm really into those cars. As much as I wasn't watching rally at those times, I just really like those cars, just as an automotive fan. So yeah, I'm super interested. I would imagine John is quite a bit more interested.
Jumping at the bit.
So you're shaking in my chair. Yeah, I think the best thing to happen to WRC 10 was WRC 9, because I think that they were on a kind of slightly negative trajectory, especially up against Dirt Rally, which had been a phenomenal game. And I think they really had kind of there was a clear divide. There was one game is better than the other, and that's the way it is. And I'm sorry, but that seems to be the truth for me. WRC 9, however, changed that, because so many people went, oh, you know what? I've given it a chance, and the physics are actually really good, and the stages are actually really good. So then, of course, it builds a little bit of hype, and then suddenly, for them to now announce the classic cars, it's almost like they're bringing it towards Dirt Rally a little bit, to fight them directly. Which I always had in my head that the WRC franchise that was like the official championship. If you want to do the modern day out WRC stuff, that's where you go. But for everything else, Dirt Rally had you covered. Kind of like AC versus ACC. Assetto Corsa has all the mods, all the cars, and that's great. But then ACC for your specific GT3 racing at a very high quality. And I kind of had that similar thought about these two, but it's almost as if they're trying to transition and become a little bit more like the Dirt Rally franchise, which for me is an interesting point, because in some ways the Dirt Rally franchise could see itself kind of going more in the opposite direction. So that's it's a bigger topic, but that's one to bear in mind. Are they maybe meeting somewhere in the middle before they cross over?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. This game is strange because actually, first of all, you both mentioned that WRC 9 is good and they changed the physics, and people who really got into it enjoyed it. I still see online the reputation of these games tarnished by the previous ones. There are still people who look at this trailer and go, well, that's trash. So because I played WRC 7, so that is an uphill struggle. And there's two very, very weird things about this game and this reveal. I feel like it's quite early to show off a trailer and announce it when it's not out until September.
Yeah.
And you think about how close F1 2021 is to release, and we haven't even seen any gameplay footage. So it's bold. And then the second thing is, in that trailer, I should say that WRC 10 will have all the official drivers and teams from the 2021 season, but it will also have a mode that celebrates 50 years of the WRC itself. And the trailer shows these classic cars, all of which are already in WRC 9. So there's nothing new. So that's a very strange decision. At least, put a carrot in front of the horse or whatever and be like, oh, there's this Subaru. Now, in the press information, it does say Subaru and Mitsubishi will be included in the classic cars. So your car, Justin, will hopefully be in the game, but we really don't know. But the only new thing from the release video is the stages that they're on, Greece and I think it's Croatia in the screenshots. So there is some new stuff. So I'm excited as well, but also strange timing for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. And yeah, you're right. F1 has barely released a teaser and is due to come out 2 months earlier. So yeah, no, that is a little bit early, but it looks good. I mean, and maybe that's because of the lack of confidence in the community and just in gamers that you alluded to. Maybe that's why they're getting in nice and early to show people like, hey, you should actually pay attention to this one.
Yeah, I wonder if that's it. I wonder if they're just trying to grab that attention at a certain point, or trying to put themselves amongst a lot of other big announcements. I'm really glad actually you mentioned that that obviously WRC 9 had the classic cars as well, because the reason that it feels like it's maybe moving more towards dirt is because they're really putting huge amounts of focus on that through the trailer, and it feels like it almost it's acting as if it's this brand new thing. And okay, it's probably the new game mode and stuff like that, but in reality, do we really know what that game mode's going to be? Is it a big part of the game? Is it just a small side thing? They've made to me it seems like, oh, they're putting more emphasis on that, and they're maybe making it more about the whole world of rallying, but actually maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a few scenarios on the side, and they're just glorifying that because of the anniversary, because it's the official license. So it's kind of difficult to judge. We're going to have to wait and see when it comes out. But for me, I just like to see as well with classic cars on rally games. We've seen the same ones over and over again, and that's honestly fantastic, of course. But it would be good to see some more kind of rare cars that we haven't seen on games before. Well, I personally would love to see some of the really early Group A cars, for example. We've seen all the classics being done multiple times, and they're great to drive and everything. But, we haven't seen the unsuccessful cars. It's kind of similar to what I was saying about F1 2021. But, we haven't seen the 80s Audi Quattro that came straight after Group B, the first one that was a heffalump of a car. The Mitsubishi Galant before it became the Lancer. The Nissan Sunny. There's the Mazda 323. So many brilliant cars that are so exciting now to look back on, but they weren't necessarily successful. I'd love to see something a bit more unique.
I agree with that, and I also think that my personal preference, maybe they're launching these classic cars thing to get the hype going, but WRC 9 career mode was basically identical to WRC 8. So I would personally rather see some innovation on that front.
Yeah.
I would agree also with John on the classic cars, because I feel like cars back then had bigger differences. There was more variety.
Yeah, that's true.
Nowadays, the difference between a Peugeot and a Hyundai, in the modern era, in the 2010s and stuff like that, in terms of how they feel to drive and stuff like that, probably isn't massively different. They're probably fantastic to drive, all of them. They're just mega fast. Whereas there was big differences in power and handling and braking and grip and all of that kind of stuff with those older cars. So yeah, I agree. That would be really cool to see, actually.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Modern rally cars, while I find them very exciting, can be a bit homogenous in some respects.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'm sure there
Like
are
John
slight
mentioned,
differences,
the old ones.
like GT3 cars. You know,
yeah, of course.
Similar but different. Whereas back then they were just different. They were just really, really different.
I think I also come, a good example of that is very similar is like Le Mans. You look at Le Mans prototypes in the last 10 years and you could honestly change the color of them and you wouldn't know which one's which. Obviously, the fans do know, but to any casual viewer, they're all spaceships and they're all the same. They drive the same, they look the same. Whereas, look at the late 90s and GT1s and the early LMPs, some had roofs, some didn't. Obviously, in the 80s, the Group Cs had different characteristics as well, whether it was the wing, the shape, the length. So that's obviously a big thing about classic cars that make them fun to drive because you want to drive every individual car, not just the era of car. But I just feel like a lot of them have been done so many times. It'd be nice to see something new.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with both of you there, which makes for perhaps not the most agitated podcast. Maybe we'll get to that with some other topics later on because I think we might disagree on a few things. So that's basically WRC 10. Listen, we're all interested. It looks cool, but it's far away from release. I mean, one weird thing that's just come to me now is WRC 9 launches on Steam after WRC 10 by a week.
Yeah.
So that's a whole weird thing. Anyway, we'll stop talking about rally now and we'll move on to something that's more hardware based. And also something that might appeal to people who are on a PC simulator scene or on a home console as well, as it turns out. And this is a brand new steering wheel add-on, to be clear, from Thrustmaster. It's called the SF1000 Edition Wheel add-on. And it is a working replica of a Formula One steering wheel that was used by Ferrari in 2020. So there's many things to cover on this one, and we don't want to get too bogged down in the technicalities of it. But Justin, for example, looking at this wheel, did this get you excited and want to buy a expensive peripheral?
It really did, to be honest. I won't actually buy it, but it did make me interested. I can't justify that price for what is specifically a Formula One wheel. And it should be emphasized that it is a very Formula One wheel. So it wouldn't really be useful for racing, for rally racing. Yeah, exactly. That sort of thing. So it's very specific, and that's a high price tag. But it's not as high as you maybe might think, for that sort of thing. If you told me a Ferrari replica wheel with a working LCD screen on it, by the way, which wasn't mentioned yet, but a working LCD screen on it, I think is super neat. Now, having said that, I was sitting there trying to imagine myself using it, and when would I look down at that LCD screen exactly?
I was going to cover this.
So I think it's neat as hell. I'm super excited about it. I'm not going to buy it. And also, I don't really know what it's for. So, I mean, I'm sure it'll display lots of information, but that same information can very easily be displayed on your monitor in front of you where you're already looking and driving. You know what I mean? So I don't know the benefit of looking down. Sorry for the podcast listeners, but I don't understand the benefit of looking down at your wheel for some sort of information which may be readily available by just having a quick glance on your monitor. So it's one of those weird I would have to see it in action, but I think it's a really, really fair price for an authentic piece of Ferrari stuff. And I mean, anybody that's watched Top Gear has seen them play the Ferrari add-on price game where, how much do you think it costs for a carbon fiber cup holder?
Yeah, this is cheaper than seat height adjustment on a real Ferrari.
Exactly. So, and it has real carbon fiber in it and stuff like that. It's almost like it's worth buying just to hang up or something, just to frame it in your house or something. But I don't know if I would use it.
I think it should be noted at this point the price is £329 or £330 or $350 in euros.
It's not cheap.
It's not cheap.
By Ferrari standards, it's cheap.
Exactly. Are you going to buy it, John?
No, but for any listeners as well, just to emphasize, you need the base as well. This is the rim, so
just the rim.
You need to own a base, and so therefore you cannot just have the steering wheel working for 320 quid. You need to have the rest of it. But yes, I thought it looked amazing. I thought it looked mega. I love the fact that it's a replica, and as Justin kind of touched on, it's almost arguably as much of an art piece or something as it is actually functional. Because of course, it's going to be a good wheel. That's great. It's been, Ferrari wouldn't design their real wheel to not be functional in real life. Therefore, it's going to have uses on the sim. But if you honestly, if I ask all you sim racers out there listening to the podcast, how many of you have ever noticed the LED lights that are actually on your wheel rim. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
or how many of you use the get in game stuff? I mean, honestly, I could not tell you if my wheel had lights in it. I couldn't tell you because I never looked there. And although the dash does look amazing, and you know, I think it's maybe for the people that are wanting to make videos. You know, this is a really cool dash for someone who wants to make a video where they're pretending they're in a real Ferrari and stick it on Facebook and get 30,000 jealous likes. And that's great, and it looks amazing for that. But is it really functional? I'm not sure.
Yeah. One thing I would say about the two things I'd like to say about the display, actually. One about the positioning. Completely agree. It's such a good point. I didn't think about it. But if you're in one of those play seats,
yes. So I did think about that.
Down on the ground.
If you're in the proper F1, right? Yeah, then totally
the thing. But it's about how many people have space for that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I have LED lights like this one has also for the gear change on my wheel. And I looked at them the day one, and then I never really used them again, like John. The screen though is really cool because, in some respects, it has the special graphics from the F1 2021 game on it. So your energy management and your tire value temperatures and brake temperatures and stuff are actually coming from the game in that Codemaster style, which is
I like that they've done that. That they've worked with the company that's developing the game to make sure that it works. You know, it's plug and play, which I love. I love
when things are plug on a different game.
Right. Yeah.
Do they have Do they have like standard dashes for other games that would
not seen at the minute, and I'm not sure. And it should be worth noting that the release is interesting. There's 1,000 units only for Europe at the minute. 1,000 Europes only for units. Brilliant. And they're all sold out immediately.
Yeah.
All
very quickly.
Very Ferrari.
Yep.
Very Ferrari. And then it's not clear when it'll be available again or available to restock. But it does say that from the 18th of May, Asia Pacific region follows, and worldwide sales starts on 26th of August. So it might be that they're not available again for mere mortals until the 26th of August.
Right.
But we'll have to see. There are some out in the wild. And also it has metal paddles at the back, which you can buy optional upgrades to have even more metal paddles. I don't know what the difference is. And there is also clutch paddles at the back, which is a really nice addition, again, for Formula One.
Yeah. It's seriously cool. Yeah, I don't think any of us are the target audience. And
I'd love to try one, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's cool as hell. I don't understand, or I do understand why it sold out so quickly. I completely understand why it sold out super quickly.
Yeah.
And again, the thing I'm most impressed with is the price. It is surprisingly, again, for something that has a screen and that many buttons and that much metal and carbon fiber and a Ferrari logo on it. I mean, I think you've sold me on it now. John, are you convinced?
Well, do you know the thing though? I think it's almost the kind of product that would sell just as well if it was 3 times the price. Do you know, it's got that kind of, it's got that feeling where you don't need it, but it's for people that really want it, and it's probably not much more functional than something else. But for those who can afford it and don't care and just want something that looks amazing, you'd go for it. So in some ways, it's almost like you'd almost be okay selling it for more money. Like, do you know what I mean?
They missed out on some money, I think. I think you're exactly right. I think they could have sold it for $500 and people would have bought it just as fast.
Yeah.
Just as fast.
It's so cool, though. I mean, we normally don't get too excited about steering wheels, right? We're supposed to be all about the games and esports.
Especially the price. Like, the highlight for me is the price.
but there's so many actual, if you listen to the audio version, Google it. SF1000 Thrustmaster wheel as an abbreviation. There's so many dials and knobs and
I guess those are functional too in the F1 game as well. Yeah.
Now it almost seems like you've got too many there. I mean,
I don't know. When I'm racing, I wish I had more and more buttons. Like, you can never have enough. Yeah.
One for the splash, one for the windscreen wipers.
Horn.
I just need one for the handbrake in Forza.
Horn all the way.
It's our first Forza mentioned the klaxon. We need to edit it. We'll mention it actually later on a serious note. And the final point I think on this, this is compatible with many existing Thrustmaster wheelbases that
all but one, right?
Yeah, basically.
All but the T500. The T500 is, which makes me wonder what's wrong with the T500.
Well, I don't know. But
I don't know anything about that wheel, actually. I've never heard of it until this article.
The TSPC is a popular thing that's been used for previous Ferrari-based wheels. There have been many Thrustmaster Ferrari have got a partnership. the T300 is a very popular console games. Yeah, and a PC obviously as well. And this would work with that. So actually, Justin, you're half of the way there.
I know. I really could get it.
On board. Oh, cool. All right. Well, that's the Thrustmaster Formula 1 steering wheel. Next, we're going to go to two wheels this time for a very weird game with a strange name. Actually, John, do you want to say the name of the game?
Rims.
Yes.
Well, I don't know why you asked me to say that, but I'll do my job.
I don't know why either. It was a spur of the moment thing, but it's called Rims Racing, and don't forget the lowercase I and uppercase R, M, and S.
Because the I is quiet.
Yeah.
The I is quiet. Everything else is very loud.
Remiss.
Yeah. And this is a motorcycle game for the uninitiated, and it's a brand new franchise. So these don't come along every day, and that's why we're talking about it. So often it's either like an update for a game or some DLC or the 10th WRC game or the yearly sports thing. This is something brand new. And just to give you a quick overview, this is from a brand new studio based in Milan, I believe. And this is published by Nacon, however you want to pronounce it. I believe it's using some kiloton technology who make the WRC games, for example. And it's more focused about the bike models themselves than perhaps the racing. John, will a game that is focused about the parts used on a bike interest you more than one that's focused about bike collection or racing, for example?
Yes, if I'm interested in bike parts. And I think, to me, right? No, but seriously though, to see something unique and new is great. We've got bike games and we've got different types of things. We've seen, the likes of Track DR coming out recently, which is trying to simulate track days. And we've obviously got the MotoGP franchises, MXGP, all these things. Ride tries to kind of be the collection game and everything. Rims, on the other hand, Rims Racing, is trying something unique, is trying something new. I think we've got to give it time and we've got to give it a chance. It's hard to say too much about how it's going to be in this current state because we don't know yet, right? It's that speculation phase where it's exciting, it's intriguing, it's a bit different. It doesn't necessarily sound like a number one Hollywood seller, but it looks amazing. And for me, I think you were probably going to talk about this anyway, Tom, but there's not many bikes you can choose from, right? There's only 8 bikes available on launch. But the thing I would say about that, or unless you want to come in there.
Well, it's bold.
It's bold.
It's very brave.
Yeah, but I like that. Why not?
I like that too. But...
If you make it work, the way, again, it's the same analogy as I used earlier, but look at ACC. There's more than 8 cars in ACC, but there's only 2 classes of car. It was only one class of car for the first 2 years. And, people nowadays are so in love with games where you can drive anything. You can drive a Mini, you can drive a GT1, you can drive an F1 car on Assetto Corsa, an R-Factor, iRacing. And for them to come out and say, no, this game is just GT3 racing, but we still think people are going to play it as much as iRacing or as much as R-Factor, I think is very bold. And look how successful it is because the quality is there. So it's not necessarily about the quantity, the number of collector's items, bikes you can get. If you're into your bikes and the game has the quality, then it's going to be worth it. But we don't know that yet. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, have you seen much of this game? I mean, I believe my understanding is there's literally hundreds of parts that are switchable on the bike. So, previously you might be able to tune up suspension and wheels in a game. This is into the real nerdy stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not a bike guy, honestly, as people probably know. I've mentioned this before, but
hey, but that's all right.
I do like that it's bold. As you mentioned, it's going a different route. It's doing something different. It's a bit niche. But it looks very interesting, I have to say. Again, we've only seen not in-game footage, right? Yeah, it's really kind of just a teaser trailer that's very stylistic.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, exactly. But it seems really neat. And I think the important thing is that the 8 bikes be quite different in speed. I think that's the important thing. Okay. And certainly I've said before in the past that you've made a good racing game if you can just jump in whatever car and just turn laps. If you could just go drive around and you're having a blast, then you've made a really good game. And that it could be like that. It could feel absolutely incredible. It might be so customizable that you really can do whatever. I remember like when Gran Turismo first came out, it wasn't a drifting game, not meant to do drifting at all. They never advertised it as drifting in any way whatsoever, but purely because of the customization of it, because you could go in and fine tune the setup and the parts and all that kind of stuff. You could go drifting. Yeah. So it was almost like a sandbox game. Like you could do things with it that it wasn't built for, that it wasn't intended for. And I think if they can pull off a similar sort of thing with 8 bikes, then it could absolutely be an incredible
game. More power
to
them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think intriguing is the word for me, and because if there's a game that they've announced and talked about and I still can't picture what it's actually going to be like, to me that entices me, it draws me in. And I don't think we really know how the game's going to properly look when you're playing it yet. There's stuff like car mechanic simulators and stuff that do really well. It's not necessarily all about the racing and the driving.
Yeah,
so what is the target market for this game? I'm not necessarily entirely sure what that is. My worry for this game, if it is an actual riding simulator as well as the parts, so you're meant to be able to feel the differences between the different parts and changes you make to your bike, that's all well and good, but my worry is that when it comes to bike simulation, the hardware is not there yet compared to car simulation. I don't think people have motorcycle simulation equipment lying around their house where they could just pick up, plug it in, and play. Do you know what I mean? So is this game too early? Is it going to be let down by the lack of hardware available?
I just think that if you've got, I agree, it's a fair point. If you've got all this incredible simulation of the parts of the motorcycle, and then on track, it's not incredible, the whole house of cards falls down.
Yeah,
that's fair to say.
Yeah,
And also, I wonder how, as an engagement mechanic, they're going to integrate the tuning up or leveling up or availability of parts. Do I have everything unlocked at the start? Do I have to? What's the grind sort of thing?
Yeah, is it winning races? Is it winning races to make money, or is it nailing the right setup changes to make the right improvements?
Right. Like, do you have access to the parts immediately, or is that something you have to unlock or purchase or something like that? I would prefer the latter. I would prefer, some progression, and, you start off with like the crappiest bike and the crappiest parts, and you work your way up, and you have to juggle that money, and you decide, do I want to buy the next level bike, or do I want to upgrade this bike? And it's those kinds of decision-making stuff that I think would be a lot of fun.
So hangs in the balance. We're really up for it, and we really want something that's good and new and fresh and different, because perhaps there's not enough of it at the minute. But we have to see a bit more. There is only this sort of teaser trailer, which is not in-game, and some in-game screenshots.
It's the fact it's a new developer as well, too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? We have literally no basis whatsoever. If they had come out with anything, any other motorcycle game, then we could easily be like, oh, well, look at this one. This one was good, or this one was bad, or whatever. But
true.
Yes, so it's a new franchise from a new company that's trying something completely new. So I don't know.
Well, I think exactly. That basically covers rims. I would say one more thing, and that is it is out in August, which is quite soon. And it's on basically every platform. So
sooner than WRC, and with a lot less info.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering if we'll hear more soon. Hopefully we will. And also, I feel like, and I hope, like they've been beavering away quietly, and it's all sort of there. And then soon it'll be like, oh, this is interesting.
Sitting on a gold mine, we hope.
Yeah, we hope. All the best.
Crossed.
More power to them. Oh, I've said that twice now, but yeah, really good luck with it all. So we'll move back to Four Wheels now. And this is not like a serious game, I don't think, or a simulation. Sometimes you just want to sit back, relax, and explore an open world. So we're going to talk about Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, which I do think has quite a lot of Test Drive Unlimited fans ready and waiting for something. So my takeaway from this was, we already have like a popular open world game. And I don't want to delay it too much, but Justin, since as you're a preeminent Forza Horizon fan, is there space for a Test Drive Unlimited game as well in the world?
I think so. Absolutely. If it's good, I'll play it. I'll let it draw me away from Forza Horizon, especially because of the semi-yearly or bi-yearly, whatever it is, release schedule. It means that there is a nice like year-long area where exactly. So I'm totally into it. Weirdly, I did not play Test Drive Unlimited. Like, right. I've heard people speak of it as if it's legend. You know what I mean? Like, Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, Test Drive Unlimited, man. And I've seen some gameplay or some screenshots and stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty neat. But I think it was just a case of when it came out, it wasn't what I was looking for necessarily. It wasn't the sort of game that I was looking for. I don't know what the progression was like in it, but obviously this new game, Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown.
Yeah, don't forget the unlimited bit there.
Right, it's got the unlimited, so you would expect it's gonna have some of that feel from it. Because why else would they include that name? Although racing game companies have a history of using the name for something that doesn't necessarily match up to a predecessor, so maybe we shouldn't get our hopes up.
We could all probably think of one that we will not mention in this podcast.
Right, but again, my big passion recently for the past 4 or 5 whatever years now since Forza Horizon 3 came out has been the Horizon games, just because I think it's hugely fun to drive around in an open world and make your own routes and have that customization of cars and stuff like that. So now the trailer, of which there is a trailer, so if you're listening on the podcast or if you're watching on YouTube, whatever, if you want to pause it, go watch the trailer or something, doesn't reveal a whole lot about how the game actually works.
No, absolutely not. Have you, on the trailer, John, what was your takeaway from it, and have you played some Test Drive previously in the past? Sorry, Test Drive Unlimited, because there's many Test Drive games.
I've played Test Drives, not Unlimited.
Yeah.
So I'm the person that Justin spoke about, the hidden person who passes the message on of the old legend that was Test Drive. I've never played any I've never played any Test Drive games other than Test Drive Unlimited, right? So,
so weird,
it was a game of its time, and okay, you look back at it now, it doesn't maybe stack up as well, but I think at the time it was perfectly high quality. I just loved the open world. I loved driving and discovering a car dealership you never knew was in the game. So it was like, oh, I didn't know there was Maseratis in the game. Oh, I've just discovered the Maserati dealership, and you can go in there and look at all the different models and the prices, and they go up, and you just aspire to it. You're like, okay, I have nowhere near enough money for this, but I want this car, and then you have to go and race with your little Volkswagen Polo or whatever it might be, make your money, and then use that money to drive back to the Maserati dealership and buy that dream car. And I love that kind of progression about it. There were lots of hidden areas on the map that were hard to find. It's basically based on an island, and this is exactly, I think, what they're going to go for again with Solar Crown, which is what I love. The unlimited factor, the idea of racing around an island, buying property, raising your money. It's kind of that Grand Theft Auto meets Forza Horizon meets a car game. There's a little bit of tuning in Test Drive Unlimited, but not mad customization. You could upgrade certain elements. But no, from the trailer for me, Tom, going back to your question because I'm rambling on about the game now. I thought it was trying to give hints of sophistication and classiness. Look at the car choice, the Aston Martin and the Range Rover, the casino vibes. It was almost like, hey, we're wanting to make a game that's fun like Forza Horizon, but we're more serious about it, and we're going to make it less crazy, and we're going to make it a little bit more James Bondy. And I don't know whether I like that or not, but I feel like it was as much an indication of the aesthetic of the game as it was the features of the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It just seemed to be like this suave, swanky thing. Oh, look, I've got an Aston Martin, and I'm going to put the key on the chips. And that suggests like some sort of pink slips thing in the racing.
Yeah.
And also, just to quickly go back to the previous Test Drive Unlimiteds, for me, I think the main appeal was the world and the environment. The driving, that's not held up so well these days.
Yeah.
It's more the exploration, if that's fair.
Same for me.
I assume it was a controller game, not something you use a racing wheel for. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah.
Right.
And also, the first one came out when the 360 just launched, and it was like a big hype. The PS3 hadn't launched at the time, so it was like, whoa, what's this? But yeah, on the trailer, it's more of a, I don't know, it's to give you a feel for the type of game. And at the end, it does say that more will be revealed in July, which is soon.
Yeah, look forward to that. And can I just say as well, Test Drive Unlimited 2, I played that and I did not like it. I didn't mind it, but it didn't have nearly the same enjoyment level as the first. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing, I'm not sure, but we've got to bear that in mind as well. It's not as if Test Drive Unlimited was this one-off amazing game that's never been touched since. They did make a follow-up, and I don't think it was received super well. Maybe I'm wrong.
I would agree with that. No, I'd agree with that. Yeah. And,
are these online? Were these online, like MMO style, like Forza, where you drive around and there's other people?
Not in my experience.
Okay.
Same for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I didn't experience
It's
that.
a fair point though. Nothing is mentioned at this point if this game will be that.
Right.
Based on previous games, it's like a solo experience, but it's 2021, right? So
it would be cool if it worked like Forza or the Crew, where you have
the
like
crew. Yeah.
You're in a server, and there's only like 60 other people, but it just feels like you're in an MMO. You're in a city that has actually hundreds, thousands of people and stuff.
Yeah. It's been confirmed. We don't know where, but it will be a massive, quote unquote, massive open world game replicated in a 1-to-1 scale. Now, if they're saying replicated in a 1-to-1 scale, that suggests to me that it's not a fictional location. It is somewhere based in reality.
I hope it's Monaco.
What?
That sounds cool. I don't know why, but just immediately I was thinking that would be cool.
The casino vibes have made you think of that, maybe?
Yeah,
Monaco's famous for the gambling,
and it's got the automotive connection as well too.
Yeah.
And it above Monaco is just tons of like rally and winding roads and stuff, and then down in the city you have literally where the F1 race takes part. So it's got that off-road, on-road kind of racing casino all together.
Yeah, on that, you say off-road, on-road. I think it's important that one of the cars in the game is a Range Rover so far.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
Test Drive Unlimited 2 had off-road, which Test Drive Unlimited original, didn't have, and that was a big thing. So half of the races towards the start were like off-road cross country, and I didn't enjoy that personally because you had to build up a repertoire of big vehicles that weren't that fun to drive as well. But I mean, if they implement it properly, I'm all for it. Forza Horizon do it well.
I remember that in the sequel. I seem to remember not understanding that and ended up in a Ford GT off-road and thinking, this is not enjoyable. What is this?
That's more on you than the game, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. In this teaser trailer, or cinematic trailer, as they call it, at the start, someone's going through like a selection of keys, like they're, I don't know, chocolates or Nespresso pods or something. And on that, I did notice there are Ferrari, Audi, Bentley, Mercedes-Benz, Lamborghini, and Bugatti. Plus, the Steam pre-order page mentions Koenigsegg, Apollo, and Dodge. Now, we don't know if those keys are mentioned.
So weird to me that Dodge is thrown in the mix of all of that. Koenigsegg, Apollo, Bugatti, Dodge. Dodge. Yeah. They make trucks.
Old American muscle. Yeah.
MG.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to have some weird and varied vehicles, I guess. So there's no confirmation that those cars are in the game. Obviously, the trailer has an Aston Martin and a Range Rover SVR as well. But to me, you wouldn't have those. You still probably have to license those brands just to mention them in the trailer. And it's so obvious that it's not just the keys. There's like a little tag above that says Audi.
Yeah.
Ferrari. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think you're right. It would be really weird for them to show those and not have them in the game. Really weird.
And the other thing is that this is coming to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, PC on Epic and Steam, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Nintendo Switch. And I would love to see the differences between those versions. Like, how big is this open world if it's got to work on Switch as well? Is one thought I had.
Right.
And
as
also,
well as a 3090.
Yeah, exactly. And it's clearly like maybe a cross-generational thing. And there's no release date, but that maybe suggests to me that it could be quite soon. What do you think, John?
I hope so. I'm definitely keen to try it. I think one of the main selling points from the last game or the previous games were the amount of manufacturers that were involved as well. Yeah. So like I remember like Wiseman. They had their kind of roadster from the mid 2000s, and it was amazing. And they had Maseratis, the old McLaren F1 in there. They had so many interesting and discreet cars as well as the big brands. So I'm actually just talking about this is making me excited about it, and I hope it's Monaco. It
I can see it on your face, John. Yeah, it's good.
I hope it works with the racing wheel. I know that's weird, but Forza. So that's one part where like I do hope it really is like Forza. One way it could beat Forza as well too is with a proper damage model. But I know a lot of brands are not down with having their cars destroyed. We've
got an article about this,
which infuriates me. I could go on. I could get so mad about that. But
you either have the licensed car or you. I mean, look, Wreckfest doesn't have any licensed cars for a reason.
Exactly.
So, but okay. Well, that's Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Had a complete blank there and forgot the name. It's quite long and confusing for a simpleton like me. Unless you've got some exciting thoughts to add on to that, John.
TDUSC. It's not even fast to say the shorthand.
No. So that's that game. We'll have to wait and see. Apparently, there are some people on the development team who made the original ones, which gives me a little hope. And July is the date when we find out more, whatever that might be. So we're on to our final two topics there, and this one I feel like we could have a little disagreement on. But this is going back to hardware. This is a new Fanatec CSL DD, which is a wheel base. Not a steering wheel, as I've seen many YouTube reaction videos say. This is not
a wheel.
This is a wheel base, which is sort of the motor for a wheel to give good force feedback. It's direct drive, and it's at a more affordable price for direct drive. And just really quickly before we dive in, I am aware that actually we all know Fanatec's products, and we read and hear about them all the time. There's a lot of people out there who have a Logitech or a Thrustmaster wheel and just feel that Fanatec is, well, that's just for influencers, right? Or people who are affluent because they're very, very expensive. One of the reasons they're expensive historically has been the fact they are direct drive. They're not belt driven for the force feedback. Apparently that's superior. And the Formula wheelbases are well over £1,000 alone. But this one is $350 or €350. So now then, how are we going to play about it? I think we've got a lot of opinions here. So first of all, I'd like to just cover our initial reactions. John, what was your initial reaction last night when you saw this being revealed?
My initial reaction was, wow, this is great. And I think that the numbers that are being thrown about make complete sense because they're compromises in the right way. So, here's a smaller base with less Newton meters of torque. The thing is, direct drive wheels, I think it used to be a competition with who could create more torque, but you never use the full torque in a direct drive wheel. So I've been thinking, okay, they've kind of saved in that area, and they've probably put it in other areas. Now, the thing that got me though was when I saw the price, and my reaction to the base was one thing, but the price was completely unexpected. And for me, the word that pops to mind is game changer, absolute game changer.
Right.
This was making it clear. This is my first reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, and just quickly on that as well, why is torque sort of important? Is it just like a numbers race? For me, the more torque, the harder it is to turn the wheel in a simple way.
It's not. I don't think it's quite as simple as that. I'm not an expert on it, but I think that there's a difference between there's the power of the torque in terms of how heavy the wheel is, but there's also the amount of detail. So that can be affected by the torque as well. And I think that's what I'm going to come on to in a minute. But yeah, it's not simple. Quite as simple as that.
Right. Well, before we just quickly jump to Justin, it's 5 Newton meters of torque. It's all relative, whatever that means. In real terms, we need to feel it to understand what that's like. You can buy an optional, a different power adapter, price to be confirmed, which raises it to 8. And for reference, the £1,000 or £2,000 direct drive Fanatec DD1s is 20 Newton meters of torque, and the DD2 is 25. So, Justin, with all that context, then, what were you thinking when you heard about this last night?
This is good. The direct drive technology has come down in price, and it's more affordable. It's not entry level. Still, I would describe an entry level wheel as something that's being sub $200 or sub 200 pounds. That's really, if you want to dip your toes into sim racing, if you want to find out if it's really for you, that's probably a pretty fair amount. This is twice that just for the base. So that's not even factoring, and for some people like myself that has a T300, it's actually a downgrade in terms of the force. Now you do get benefits, as John is going to touch on in a little bit here.
Yeah.
But so my initial reaction was, oh, this is neat. I don't think it's for me specifically. And then my thoughts on it continued to develop from there. Do you want me to continue, or would you like to?
Well, let's see what John's change of opinion was, and let's see if it matches up with yours.
Okay.
Well, I've been speaking about the wheel to a few of my sim racing teammates, because obviously it's a big topic of discussion, what equipment to use and stuff. And this is the first direct drive base that's become competitive price wise, but it's also, I believe, the first direct drive base to have a similar power output to a wheel that's not direct drive, like a belt driven wheel, or and I think that's the thing we need to consider here. I am not an expert in wheels enough to know that it is the thing that make direct drive wheels so good. Is it the direct drive technology itself, or is it the power that goes with that? And if we take a direct drive technology and down the power to lower than half of the belt driven wheels that are around about a similar price, does that also take away all of that feeling and detail that you get with direct drive? I mean, they've said as well it comes with a clamp. So this is the first direct drive wheel you can probably clamp to a desk by the sounds of it.
That's an optional extra.
Optional extra, right? Okay. Well, either way, it seems to be like what they're trying to say is, you can use this on a table, and what that says to me is, okay, it maybe it isn't as sturdy. It doesn't need as much. It's not going to be as heavy. And is that even, at what point, what are we trying to go for here? Are we wanting the direct drive technology, or are we wanting the power behind it? I don't know the answer to that question because I'm not an expert and I need to try it. But that's the thing for me that I'm not sure about. Will it have the detail?
I need to try it is the short end. Like I would not just buy this thing outright. I would need to try it, because so I had a Thrustmaster TMX and I upgraded to the T300 and I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew it was going to be similar, but better. I have no idea how this would compare to my T300. I have no idea if I would like it more. I have no idea if it's better for what I play specifically, for my games specifically. Like, is it because Thrustmaster is very friendly with Forza, and they've got that integrated thing with the F1 game for their new wheel. Things like that are really appealing to me. The plug and play, as I mentioned earlier. My big question, so as I thought about this wheel more and more, was who is this wheel for? Because I don't think it's for me, because I don't use a wheel enough. I'm not competitive enough. It's not for esports drivers because they want the $1,000 good stuff. You know what I mean? So, and it's not even really for streamers and stuff like that, I don't think either. So my question was, who is this just for, like, aspiring esports drivers? And if it's just for aspiring esports drivers, that is niche as hell. like if you want to be an esports driver but aren't yet, and you have this much money, and keep in mind it's still not cheap because you have to buy the rim as well too. So yes, it's cheaper, but it's still a lot more expensive than just going out and buying a T300 or whatever the equivalent Logitech is, the G920 whatever it is. So my big question was, who is this for? And would people want to sacrifice the Newton meters for, supposedly higher fidelity with the direct drive? I don't know. And this is where it gets into like a really nerdy niche sort of thing. And also, I have heard not great things about Fanatec equipment. Like I've seen, I follow a lot of the F1 guys, obviously, and I've seen Tiamat Marduk tweeting about how the USB cord doesn't actually properly connect to his Fanatec anymore. And it's like, that's such a low, like, stress piece of the whole puzzle. And it's like, you can't give us like a good connector for this. Like, so and he's a famous person, so he got to go to Fanatec and say, hey, give me another $1,000 wheel. And they did. But what if, I scraped and scrounged and saved up money for years making a, minimum wage or something, which I don't. I'm just saying, like, what if I did? And then I bought this thing, and then the USB cord fails on it, and I got to buy another one for $1,000. I've heard Fanatec isn't the best in terms of reliability and stuff. I don't know if that's old stuff, but I'm just hesitant to spend a lot of money on something that's so new and has so many question marks around it.
I think on that point, I suppose we have to give them a benefit of doubt. Is a new design, so we'll have to see. But John, as a actual sim racer, is this interesting to you?
Yes, I think that I was actually going to come in on Justin's point when he was saying who's this for, but he ended up answering exactly what I was going to say. And I feel like there's an element of, I'm aspiring to be a professional esports driver, and I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'm still a child or a young person. I'm not on a good wage. I'm at college. I don't have any money. So this is my route into direct drive technology without budget. But the question I say then is, we cannot answer this question until we know what the wheel feels like, because it's until somebody knows that, for all we know, we could jump on this wheel and be like, oh my goodness, it feels the same as an amazing direct drive, just a little bit lighter. And in which case you go, wow, we've hit the jackpot. Or you drive it and you think, okay, without the Newton meters of torque, it basically feels like a Logitech G29 or whatever, which is also a great budget wheel. But why would you spend the money on it? It just depends on where that compromise is. I think if someone said, here's a direct drive wheel but with 0.01 Newton meters of torque, it probably wouldn't be very good. So there needs to be a line somewhere, and we don't know where that is yet.
Yeah, that's a fair point. In fact, everything you both said, I fully agree with. I think there's a couple of things to note that are quite interesting. I think it was mentioned earlier, but yeah, the fact that they're advertising the fact it can be clamped to a table. I was actually like, oh, brilliant! I don't have space for a full rig or the the budget for that. So that opens up direct drive to people who maybe even have the money, but not the space, which is, again, like Justin said, super, super niche. But
It's a good point, though.
the option is there. And that I was like, oh, brilliant. It all is dependent on the feeling. I would say that I've done some research, and a Logitech G29 in the UK is £350 at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not got direct drive, but maybe direct drive is this holy grail name, and with this lower setting, who wants to say it's better than belt driven? There's this perception that we don't actually know.
Exactly.
Logitech's got its own true force thing, but £350 gets you the actual wheel with paddles, the motor, and the pedals.
Yeah.
This is $350, but you have to buy the wheel rim, which I believe the cheapest one is about €200 at the minute for Fanatec. And you have to get the pedals. The cheapest pedals available are another €100. There's the optional to get the 8 Newton meters of torque. We don't know the price. And there's the optional clamp. We don't know the price of that. And also, we don't know the arrival date of this. And if it's to try and get newer people in there with less budget, like we've all said, or the thing I thought of was it's a Christmas present price range now. You know, the parents would, oh, this is direct drive. We'll get that. Hey, it doesn't work with the most popular console that's available.
Yeah,
definitely. It's very important.
At the minute. And now they've said that something might come later, but not for this specific one. I think they'll make a different variant with a different name, and it'll be working on PlayStations. But this, and it works on Xbox, but only with specific wheel rims. So it's, but on PC, so it works with everything that Fanatec do, is my understanding, or the vast majority of it.
I don't think it's in any way trying to rival a Logitech G29 or G920 in my opinion.
Which was the first thought of everybody.
Yeah, and I don't think it is, because it's more expensive, as Justin mentioned. It's more of that middle ground wheel. You know, the Logitech for me is a great starter wheel. You can get one second hand for 100 to 150, and it comes with pedals, and it's still a great wheel. You can race competitively esports with it, like it's absolutely possible. This wheel is almost an alternative middle ground to a belt driven wheel that's £600 or £700, something like the Fanatec CSL Elite. Yep. You know, this is a wheel that says, I want to make the upgrade, but I can't afford it yet. Let me sniff it out, try out direct drive and see how it feels before spending the money, as an alternative to let me try a more expensive belt driven wheel that's a bit better and gives me more feeling, then spend the money on direct drive. It's like, hey, you can sample a bit of direct drive and get more of the feel of the actual technology rather than just the feeling itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would say, because they were tweeting that it's a game changer. And I will say it has the possibility of being a game changer.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I would definitely at least wait to hear reviews from people. But ideally, what I'd really like to do is actually try it myself before even purchasing. Like, I would love to give it a go. You know, if there was like some sort of sim center that I could go down to that has every wheel on the market available to try, then absolutely. But again, I'm still kind of skeptical about Fanatec's like build quality and support and all of that side of things. I really think getting Fanatec is like getting like a Ferrari or something like that. Like you're getting something that's premium, that's, you know, top of the line, best of the best, or among the best of the best. But you also get premium repair prices and all of that kind of stuff along with it, and maintenance and whatnot. So I still don't think it's for me. I think somebody who takes their racing very seriously, maybe, you know, somebody who's got a lot of money in iRacing, who isn't necessarily a streamer, isn't necessarily an esports driver, but, you know, spends a lot of time running around in iRacing and doing league racing and stuff like that, could be something fantastic. Again, we may find out that it's actually the best wheel ever made ever. We'll find out.
It is so much cheaper. So I think in conclusion, this is not a cheap wheel. It's not an affordable wheel, but it is so much more. The barrier to entry is so much lower than with the Formula DD 1s and 2s. So it's still an advancement, and I still think it'd be more popular than those. And
it works with everything from Fanatec, which is nice. So you could get the entry level base, and then get an entry level wheel, and then you could upgrade the wheel and then upgrade the base later, and you could always resell them. They'll hold value pretty well.
It will work with that absolutely mental BMW GT3 wheel later in the year, although I believe there might be another optional adapter to do that. But anyway, you're future-proofed as far as
Yeah.
Fanatec, or Fanatec, as it's supposed to be. Well, originally called, but everyone calls Fanatec, and we have it officially that we're allowed to call it both, so we're not wrong. So, talk on that, comments.
Thrustmaster Fanatec, if you combine the two.
Yeah.
Get the Thrustmaster wheel on the new Fanatec base. Try it out.
Well, on that, just really quickly, actually, one final point on this because I've gone on too long, but it's an important thing. The Thrustmaster T300 is a popular wheel for console and PC. It's £370, so in a ballpark, but it comes with the pedals. But that is also, unlike the Logitech, for example, changeable in terms of the wheel.
Yes.
And you could buy one of those and later buy one of these crazy Formula One wheels that we talked about earlier, and it still might come under one of these with all the options, if that makes sense. Yeah. So worth bearing in mind. So it's a really good thing, I think, but we'll just skeptical a bit.
Yeah.
Because initial hype was like, oh my god, direct drive wheel for $350.
For $350.
No.
Breathe. Yeah.
Just
let's see how it
only
performs.
5 meters. We don't know how much the booster costs. So on and so on and so on.
So really looking forward to seeing more.
Yes. Hearing more. Yeah. Right. Especially about how it feels. Yeah. Hopefully we can get one to try out and let everybody know firsthand how good it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Keep it pinned to Traxion.GG, and you never know.
I would trust John's review on that one. I think we should get John.
I'm not going to say no, am I? Get it sorted.
So we're coming towards the end of this episode now. So we're clearly very impassioned about all these topics. We've had motorcycle games, we've had Formula One single seaters, we've had open world arcade races, and we've had 2 very serious steering wheel related peripherals. To finish off is a game that I've actually been playing last week and a half, which is MotoGP 21. There is a video review on the TraxionGG YouTube channel. There is a written review on the Traxion.gg website. And I just wanted to touch, because this isn't something that's coming out in the future. Hey, it's already here. As you're listening to this podcast, you can buy it right now. So what I would like to know from you two is, are you interested in any way in MotoGP? No. And yes, that's absolutely fine. So Justin, you said no then. How good would a MotoGP game have to be, and what would it have to do? Perhaps I'll put you on the, ask you a cold question here, to make you try it out.
Honestly, I don't know that it could, just because I'm just not that into motorcycles. Like, what it would have to do, honestly, is become a totally different game. Essentially, it would have to have like jumps and weapons, blue shells and it would just have to
like an American.
It would have to be completely insane. Well, there is
a Supercross game for you, which has got Justin.
Yeah, it's not for me. I don't watch MotoGP. I've just never been that into motorcycles for a number of reasons, honestly. Part of it is that I'm a complete coward and I would never ride one ever. They terrify me. Yes. They terrify me. I have massive respect for MotoGP, and actually I follow some people that are heavily invested and involved in MotoGP. So in terms of social media, not like around on the street, I follow them on Twitter and stuff like that. So I keep up with MotoGP, and I've got some MotoGP GIFs in my GIF library, and I have massive respect for them. I think they are even more brave than Formula One drivers. I think they're up there with the guys that run like Pikes Peak and stuff like that. Huge respect. And the game looks a bit like a mixed bag, as Rich described it. It sounds like it's got some really next gen stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of bridging the gap between previous gen and the current gen. So it sounds like there's a few things that are maybe missing some polish here and there that you would maybe expect.
Yeah, I think so. So that's the viewpoint of someone who's not really into MotoGP. I'm going to switch to John now, who I think you are looking forward to trying this game at some point. What do you think based on the review so far of the game and the footage you've seen? And just generally, what's your opinion? I've asked because it came across twice there. I could have just asked it within 10 seconds.
I think it's as expected. I think that with these kind of milestone releases, you've come to expect these minor changes, a few extra little features, nothing groundbreaking. I do really enjoy the modern day MotoGP career system, even if it does need a refresh now. I've not played it enough to warrant that refresh. Like I could go on it and it would still feel new enough to me. And I like the fact that you can choose between setting up your own team or signing for another team, or even creating your own feeder support team with Moto2, and I love all that.
I thought that was cool.
I think some of the stuff, making a big deal of rider recovery is a bit like formation laps in F1. It's fun once or twice, it's cool, but I mean, I'm sorry, but you're turning it off after 5 minutes. And
I saw it, I thought the same thing. When I saw the feature was coming, I was like, people are gonna get sick of that so fast.
So the only way you're going to keep that on is if you are someone who replicates real life as closely as possible. And I used to do this with racing games as well. Full race distance, HUD off, no assist, no rewinds, cockpit cam. That's the kind of situation where you would keep that on, and that's a very niche market of nerds like myself. I don't think.
But it's fine that the option's there.
Yeah, exactly. You can turn it off. That's fine. But I don't think it's a major selling point. It's just
not groundbreaking.
No, yeah.
It's like we've got a new color for the menu. It's basically the same.
Yeah, when you try it, you're like, oh, this is the coolest thing. I'm running around as a person.
How restricted is it? Can you like run onto the track and like try to flag guys down and stuff? Like,
yeah, you can do all that. But what I would say is, you know how in every other like third person like game where you're like shooting, running, jumping, or whatever, the left stick moves the person, the right stick moves the camera. Well, the camera doesn't do. You can't move it. It's locked to the bike on the ground. You know, like how if you're playing Rocket League, if you have the ball.
Yes.
Which is fine. Listen, the problem with it is, it takes so long to get up. You're half a lap behind, so you're like, oh, that's really nice, but I'm turning it off.
It seems unrealistically slow, right? The animations.
I think
like,
so, yeah.
Like have a bit of hustle, man. Like this is your job. Get back in the race, dude.
No, it's the same as Track DR. I specifically noticed it. It's when they stand up, there's a second where it's like, and there we go. Exactly and that is very weird. And with Track DR, I hated that because as soon as I was getting up, I wanted to be moving towards the bike, and it stopped me doing that until I kind of settled myself.
I've got a gif of a guy falling off a bike and sliding and then standing upright. Yeah. He never actually falls. He just slides on his feet into a running position. I'm like, where's that in the game?
Yeah, that's the current world champion, actually, who Johan Mir, who's in this game. Suzuki. One of the coolest clips ever. Like he's skating across the gravel. It's like surfing.
Amazing.
It's like, how have you even done that?
It's like an actual superhero.
Yeah. There's one thing I want to very, very quickly say as well is that MotoGP itself as a sport is in an amazing position. That any rider can win 4 different bikes. It's like what Formula One's been dreaming of since 2010, and that in itself makes the game more appetizing for me.
Yeah. So just really quickly, I think the online is what really lets this game down. I mean, not to have any ranked system at all is very 2007. And the career mode is good, but there's not, your engineers and stuff aren't actually people that they are in other games that are modeled. It's just a picture on the screen and they don't even have text that pops up and say something. But and also, oh my word, it's very, 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 very difficult. Justin, if you've never played a MotoGP game, you're going to be crashing every 5 seconds. Because as someone who's played the last 6 or 7, I still find this very, very difficult.
I couldn't even transition from road to oval. Like when I tried out oval racing, I was complete garbage. So never mind 2 wheels. I couldn't wrap my brain around it.
But it's not without merit, and it's nice it's on the next gen system. So go read it on the website. So I feel like, this was going to be a quick half-an-hour episode, but thanks for listening, everybody, at this point, because there's just been so much at the minute, and isn't that great? Isn't it wonderful that there's all sorts going on? The racing game genre is at an all-time high, and the fact that Ferrari is doing some stuff shows how important it is to them, and Fanatec are doing something cheaper shows how burgeoning the market is. So the final thing to finish off is, Justin, out of all these things we listed, really quickly, in 2 words, what you're most looking forward to.
I would have to go with probably Solar Crown on that one because it's up my it's my niche. Yeah,
John, how about you?
Test drive for me, Fanatec for the masses.
Oh, okay. And I'm going to say, I've got to say something different, haven't I? So I'm going to say WRC 10. But I actually agree with you.
We're all hyped for test drive.
Come on, test drive, please be good. If it's bad, it's not our fault. All right, that wraps up this episode. Thank you for sticking with us for quite a lengthy episode there. I do apologise, but I hope you've heard something about a game you weren't perhaps interested in that now intrigues you, and also, likewise, maybe you're more interested in Fanatec wheels than you ever were before. So please like and subscribe on YouTube. Please subscribe or follow on any podcast platform. It's free and it really helps us out. Leave a positive review if you feel inclined. Visit the Traxion.gg website. Follow us at TraxionGG in social media. And for now, keep it pinned.